This is section 121. We're going to take a look at relations. So today's objective, we're going to graph a relation and graph and understand equations of vertical and horizontal lines. So what is a relation? A relation is a set of points in the plane. Now, since relations are sets, we can describe a relation using the techniques in our previous sections. So we have the roster method, we have the set builder method. There's different ways that we can go through and describe them. Now, since the elements in a relation are points on the plane, we often try to describe the relation graphically or algebraically. So let's look at an example. It says graph the following relation. So this is going to be the roster method. I am listing 3 different points. And I'm saying that those 3 points are in its own set, and that's my relation. And so you go through and you graph them. There's -2, 1. There's 4, 3. And there's 0, -3. That's it. We graphed the relation. Now sometimes, in this next example here, it's a little bit more abstract. So because this is the set builder method, we have to look at this as I am giving myself information about my x and y, and then I define what the x and y could be in the next statement. So because I listed it as a point over here, I know that it's going to be some value on a graph. Now, because I implemented this as a variable, and I said my variable is x, that means I'm going to define where my x is going to be. And so I said it's going to be between -2 and 4. X is between -2 and 4. So I can think of it as between -2 and +4. That's where my x values are going to exist. I will not have anything over here. I will not have anything over here because it has to be between the -2 and the 4. Now for my y value is 3. So it has to be along here for 3. It has to be along there. So putting the 2 pieces together, it has to be along 3. At -2, solid circle. At 4, solid circle. And I can go through and I can draw it. So recapping that, because I know that that's kind of weird. So recapping that, those are all x values. Any x value is possible, but I'm going to define what those x's are specifically. My y value has to be 3. And so in this next statement, I'm saying that the x values have to be between -2 and 4, inclusive because it says equal to. And so that's where my value is going to be. It's between, if you look at the x values, it's between -2 and +4, and it's along where my y equals 3. Let's look at another one. For this one here, it says that my x value has to be 3. So my x value, it has to be 3. So my x value is going to be along that line there. And then it says my y is all real numbers. And so because it's all real numbers, there's no restriction on my y. And so therefore, it's every single possible y value. And so I can draw this vertical line here. So now, how can I look at these equations of vertical and horizontal lines? So we can look at it in this little more complicated way of writing it, but in simpler terms, I could write it as, in this statement here, the graph of an equation, x equals a, is going to be a vertical line through whatever that x value is, right? So if it says x equals a, that's where it's going to pass through. And then the graph of an equation of y equals b is a horizontal line through whatever that y value is. Now, the best way to think about it is if I have x equals, let's say, 1, is it going to pass through x if I draw it this way or if I draw it this way? right? That's a way to remember if it's vertical or horizontal. The only way it's going to pass through x is if I do it this way. If I say y equals 4, is it going to pass through y going this way or this way? It has to be that way because that's the only way it's going to pass through the y value on the y-axis. So it just helps us when it comes to remembering it. So let's look at a few examples. It says x equals 4. So I need to think about it. Is it going to pass through x if I do that, or if I'm going to do that? It's going to pass through x doing that. And so that's going to be my answer. And as you see, it passes through the x-axis. Y equals -2. Is it going to pass through my y that way or that way? It's going to be this way. And so you draw in your horizontal line at y equals -2. So closing today's lesson, what did we learn today? We learned about a relation and how a relation can be expressed in a roster method and the set builder method. So what type of line is x equals a number? That's going to be a vertical line. And then what type of line is y equals number? That's going to be a horizontal line. This does conclude our lesson. If you have any other questions, please leave them in the comments.